I'd like to introduce Christine from the United States, who takes LDN for multiple sclerosis. Thank you for joining me, Christine.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Could you tell me when you first started to notice your MS symptoms?
Well, I first started to have MS symptoms back in about 2000 when my oldest son was a little over a year old. And at that time, it was just some numbness and tingling in one of my arms. And I did seek treatment, and one doctor told me that I had MS, and I went for a second opinion, and they told me what I wanted to hear, which was that maybe it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So things sort of resolved, and I had a few strange episodes over the next 10 years or so, but it wasn't until about 2008, so maybe about 8 years, that I had a pretty severe incident happen where it sent me back to the doctor again, and then there was no denying it. He said, you should have been treated since they first diagnosed you, but I didn't want to accept it at that time, and yeah.
So how did it impact on your life being diagnosed?
Well, it was quite devastating. I was in my late 20s or early 30s, and I didn't want to accept that. I was emotionally not doing well with it. Physically, I wasn't doing well. But, with the relapsing, remitting MS, I did, go into a remission for a number of years and just had very small things happening to me that really didn't stop my lifestyle. But emotionally, it was sort of one of those things that was always in the back of my mind, what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in 2008, when I ended up going back to the doctor again, things were a lot worse. I was not doing as well, and I was not recovering.
And what were your symptoms at that point, Christine?
At that time, I had severe fatigue. It was very hard to function, and at that point in my life, I had 3 children and 2 stepchildren, and I could not be a mom. I had numbness and tingling up and down my legs. It felt like I couldn't walk. I could walk, but it was very difficult, and it felt like I had about 200-pound weights on my legs all the time, and just severe exhaustion.
Mm-hmm. And did your doctor give you any medication?
He first started me on Avonex, so I was on Avonex for quite a while, and that, everybody knows what that is. It's the big needle that you get to stick into your muscle once a week, and that didn't seem to be going so well. I also he put me on a lot of steroids. I would do the intravenous, a gram of steroids for 5 days in a row. And eventually I was declining and I was not doing well. And he switched me to Copaxone, which is the daily injections. And I still wasn't doing well. And I had joined a bunch of online kind of chat type things and multiple sclerosis support groups, and was kind of researching on my own other alternatives. And I had heard about LDN, but from what I heard about it, I seemed to claim, there was a lot of claims of it being like a miracle drug. And so I sort of didn't pay attention to it because I didn't believe in a miracle drug, so to say. And then my mother one day had sent me an article about LDN, and there was a conference, like an annual conference about LDN. So I started researching it again some more myself and just doing searches on LDN. And from what I read, I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't try it. I certainly was not doing well, and there was no reason why I shouldn't give it a try. There was no downside to it. So I asked my neurologist if he would prescribe it to me and if he had heard of it. And his response was, I've heard of it. I don't think it will help you, but I'll prescribe it for you. So he called it in for me, and I started taking it, and immediately I felt better. My fatigue was gone. The numbness and tingling in my legs that prevented me from functioning on a daily basis was gone, and that was about, I don't want to say 3.5 years ago. I did continue to take Copaxone for about a year and a half while I was taking the LDN, and I've also made some eating changes too throughout, the past few years. And for a couple of years now, I have not. I've been completely off the Copaxone, and all I take is LDN.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of diet changes did you make, Christine?
Well, I'm trying to eat mostly organic. I've noticed that when I have, say, for example, an apple that's not organic, my entire face feels flush, and I can feel my body just does not like it. So I try to incorporate a lot of organic fruits and vegetables. I try to limit my meat, and if I do have meat, I try to have organic, grass-fed types of meats. And I do seafood, but I've really just tried to reduce a lot of the carbs, and I also reduced a lot of dairy. Now, not completely. I do have some dairy in my life, but I've made a switch to almond and coconut milk instead of dairy milk. I don't have cheese very much, and I avoid yogurts. If I'm going to have yogurts, it will be made with coconut milk. And those things, I think, combined with the LDN has really, really helped me.
When you first started, did you notice any introductory side effects?
I did not. I did what I read on the internet, which was I started at a 1.5 milligram dose, and I did that for, I think, 7 days, and then I went to 3 milligrams, and I never had any side effects.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
Well, I would say that there's absolutely no risk to trying it. The research has shown that there are, at the low dose, there's almost no side effects. There's a very small, I guess, chance that you might have some sleep issues at first or some dreams. But under a doctor's care, I think there's no risk to trying it. And the benefit, I mean, I look back to where I was, and I can't imagine not having LDN in my life. What an amazing change it has made. And it's unfortunate that so many doctors will not let their patients try it. I'm part of a local support group, and many of the people there are amazed at my transformation. They've seen me, they know me, they knew me when I was not doing well, and a lot of them take the ABC drugs for MS therapy, and their doctors won't allow them to try LDN. And I don't understand that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any symptoms left at all now?
I don't, on a daily basis, I don't. Like I mentioned before, I have 3 children and 2 stepchildren. I volunteer. I run my own home-based business. I act like there is nothing holding me back. No, most people do not know that I have MS. If I run myself ragged, I do get a little bit tired, but I think that anybody does without MS or, an autoimmune disease. So I do try to get enough sleep every night, but occasionally with my business or volunteer activities and running 5 kids from here and there to sports and all sorts of things, sometimes you just can't do it, but it's not holding me back.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. It's very inspirational to others. Thank you.
Well, I'm hoping that somebody else out there will give it a chance, for sure.